Well, this is going to be one of my favorite sections. Ending radical and wasteful government, DEI programs, and preferencing. People should be ashamed of themselves, seriously. Ending radical and wasteful government, DEI programs, and preferencing. Executive Order, January 20th, 2025. By the authority vested in me as President of the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America, it is hereby ordered. Section 1, Purpose and Policy. The Biden administration forced illegal and immoral discrimination programs going by the name Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion into virtually all aspects of the federal government in areas ranging from airline safety to the military. This was a concerted effort stemming from President Biden's first day in office when he issued Executive Order 13985, advancing racial equity and support for underserved communities through the federal government. Pursuant to Executive Order 13985 and follow-on orders, nearly every federal agency and entity submitted equity action plans to detail the ways that they have furthered DEI's infiltration of the federal government. The public release of these plans demonstrated immense public waste and shameful discrimination. That ends today. Americans deserve a government committed to serving every position with equal dignity and respect, and to expending precious taxpayer resources only on making America great. I agree with that. Section 2, Implementation. The Director of the Office of Management and Budget, assisted by the Attorney General and the Director of the Office of Personnel Management, shall coordinate the termination of all discriminatory programs, including illegal DEI and diversity, equity, and inclusion and accessibility mandates, policies, programs, preferences, and activities in the federal government under whatever name they appear. To carry out this directive, the Director of OPM, with the assistance of the Attorney General as requested, shall review and revise as appropriate all existing federal employment practices, union contracts, and training policies or programs to comply with this order. Federal employment practices, you hear that, Comcast? That should apply to you too, because you do contracts with the government. You take government grants. So, yeah, I hope you were reading this too. Union contracts and training policies. Comply with this order. Federal employment practices, including federal employee performance reviews, shall reward individual initiative skills, performance, and hard work, and shall not under any circumstances consider DEI or DEIA factors, goals, policies, mandates, or requirements. That's such a win for the American people, because really they should reinstate my job and give me my job back, because that was discriminatory and I shouldn't have ever lost my job in the first place over it. Each agency, department, or commission head, in consultation with the Attorney General, the Director of OMB, and the Director of OPM, as appropriate, shall take the following actions within 60 days of this order. 1. Or I. Terminate, to the maximum extent allowed by law, all DEI, DEIA, and environmental justice offices and positions, including but not limited to Chief Diversity Officer positions. You got to terminate. Wow, the government's saying you got to terminate these positions of diversity officer. So if you got a diversity officer, yeah, say goodbye, diversity. Woo! Yeah, and you know why? Because it's discriminatory and it's racist. I'm not saying goodbye to diversity. I'm saying goodbye to these roles where they do discriminate hatefully and hastefully. Oh man, but that does make me want to dance, because yeah, you thought you had some job where you were going to get to just get in there and be hateful to white people and be racist to people because you thought you were going to get even and it was going to make you feel better. No, you're fired. What does it say? Terminate, to the maximum extent allowed by law, all DEI, DEIA, and environmental justice offices and positions. Any DEI positions within the government. Oh man, that's great. But not limited to Chief Diversity Officer positions. All equity action plans, equity actions. And I think Comcast was doing an equity action. They were really trying to make an example out of me and have a PR sacrifice. You know, or programs, equity-related grants or contracts. Terminate all grants or contracts, equity-related grants or contracts, and all DEI performance requirements for employees, contractors, or grantees. So I think that means anybody that gets a grant from the government, which would include Comcast. Whoa, 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 yeah, baby. Provide the director. That's a pretty big thing. It's saying they got to shut that down. Provide the director of OMB with a list of all agency or department DEI, DIA, or environmental justice positions, committees, programs, services, activities, budgets, and expenditures in existence on November 4th, 2024, and an assessment of whether these positions, committees, programs, services, activities, budgets, and expenditures have been misleadingly relabeled in any attempt to preserve their pre-November 4th, 2024 function. Oh man, that's so wonderful. Federal grantees who receive federal funding to provide or advance DEI, DIA, or environmental justice programs, services, or activities since January 20th, 2021. What does that mean? Oh, provide the director of them with a list of all of these places. Wow. Federal contractors, federal grantees who receive federal funding, that would be Comcast. Why since January 20th of 2021? Why don't you go back to COVID? That's what you need to be doing. That's a little messed up. Direct the deputy agency or department head to assess the operational impact, the number of new DEI hires, and cost of the prior administration's DEI, DEIA, and environmental justice programs and policies, and recommend actions such as congressional notifications under 28 U.S.C. 530D to align agency or department programs, activities, policies, regulations, guidance, employment practices, enforcement activities, contracts, including set-asides, grants, consent orders, and litigation positions with the policy of equal dignity and respect identified in Section 1 of this order. The agency or department head and the director of OMB shall jointly ensure that the deputy agency or department head has the authority and resources needed to carry out this directive. Man, they're really breaking it down. To inform and advise the president so that he may formulate appropriate and effective civil rights policies for the executive branch. The assistant to the president for domestic policy shall convene a monthly meeting attended by the director of OMB, the director of OPM, and each deputy agency or department head too. Hear reports on the prevalence and economic and social costs of DEI, DEIA, and environmental justice in agency or department programs, activities, policies, regulations, guidance, employment practices, enforcement activities, contracts including set-asides, grants, consent orders, and litigating positions. Discuss any barriers to measures to comply with this order, and monitor and track agency and department progress, and identify potential areas for additional presidential or legislative action to advance the policy of equal dignity and respect. I love equal dignity and respect way more than equity, because that means everybody's going to get treated fairly the same way. Severability, any provisions in this order application of this provision to any person or circumstance is held to be invalid. The remainder of this order and the application of its provisions to any other persons or circumstances shall not be affected. The White House, 2025. That's pretty good.